Welcome to Common Unity. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Dr. Gabriel Lewis, and we are bringing the community together with a common unity.
And I'm one of them. I've got big goals. I'm not going to achieve them with all these days off.
It's so
Straight
true.
up.
Yeah. Well, Cyclone Gabs, now that you're done destroying the country, do you want to introduce our guest this week?
Yeah, well, I will. Well, like Cyclone Gabs, I knew that this cyclone would create a big issue for me. So everybody's spelling my name incorrectly. And just like the guest today, he's had issues with his name. So
Not wrong.
Yop.
Yes, sir.
Yob, and he's known as, and he's a young individual doing some really, really cool things, and he's got great energy, and he's just backed himself to do some really cool things in Tauranga and grow the space in a space that really needs to grow in Tauranga. So welcome to Common Unity.
Bro, what an introduction.
What a guy.
Thank you guys for having me.
There we go. I'm done for talking now.
Done for talking. We can stop there.
You go hard.
I remember meeting you making delicious coffee at Folk.
Yes, sir.
And
Barista.
so what's kind of like your passions and kind of what kind of tickles you? Where did you grow up?
So the name comes with an explanation. All my
Okay.
life it has. The name Yop is from the Netherlands, which is where I grew up. So I was 6 years old when we moved here as a family.
Yep.
So we moved to New Zealand. My dad was like a businessman in the Netherlands, and ended up like pretty much running this huge company and being like, this is not the life I want to live, burning out a little bit, not seeing us. And so moved over here to get away from it all the way across the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long way to travel.
Long way to travel. It was here or Brazil, and we chose here. So,
Yeah.
and I'm stoked on that. So, it was pretty epic growing up here. Growing up as a Dutch kid who didn't speak any English, not a single word, and so mum and dad put me in primary school. And straight away picked it up really quickly. Yeah.
So what age was that?
As you do, I was 6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much I had a pretty different upbringing growing up because we moved here and I grew up here till I was probably like 9 years old. And from there, my parents got into the local church and became missionaries. And so we ended up moving to a whole bunch of different areas. So we lived in Malaysia, we lived in South Africa, Singapore, Thailand, a whole bunch of different areas. So as a kid, I had a pretty different upbringing, being like thrown into a whole bunch of different cultures and that sort of thing. And so,
That make
So
a lot of
well-rounded.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense as to how open you are and how you make people feel very comfortable in those situations. And just from sitting and observing over time, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so going back to what you asked, one of my big passions is people, really. Getting to know people, really curious about where people are from, how they work, what they think, like all that sort of thing. And I think working at Folk as a barista, a barista / hospitality is looked at as that job that's kind of like one of those entry-level jobs where you do between studying, that sort of thing. But really, I found like a really deep sense of satisfaction within it because you meet so many people and you discern a lot. You pick up from a lot of different behaviors and that sort of thing. You have a lot of real conversation. And so from there, I think that kind of like really sparked my passion in like wanting to create community and create culture and create a space for people to come and be a part of something,
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And so I had always kind of known that I wanted to do my own thing at some point. No idea what that looked like. Still am like, what does that look like? But
That's all of us, mate. We're still trying to figure out what we want to do when we grow up.
100%.
How old are you currently?
I'm currently 24.
Baby.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm told.
Yeah. Jason's knocking on the door of 40 and he's like still calling himself a baby, and he does have baby looks though.
I'm still a child, eh? Still a child.
Not even close to 40, for real.
You call yourself a boy, but not a baby. But
What's up, boy?
yeah, it's so cool though. It's a lot about the growth and development as well. What we've thought about is just getting to know people's story, and this is where Common Unity was kind of formed in the get-go, because you never know the
100%.
conversations you're going to have with some really neat and epic people.
Yeah, man. I love the name, Common Unity. Such a good name. Is that you?
It was both of us, actually. We
Combination?
kind of just sat down and we were just brainstorming a few different ideas, and then we were like,
I'd heard it used in a guy that I follow pretty closely from the States.
Yeah.
Kind of said, like, you know, where does the word community come from? Well, if you think about it, it's common unity. And I was like,
100%.
that's fantastic. And that was like top of the list. And I'd been brainstorming. Gabs came in. We're like, all right, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, the first one I got here is common unity. He's like, done.
because what I really want to do is like create a community
100%.
where we're chatting, and the community, what a community is common unity within a group of people that have the same vision and growing good people.
Yeah, man. 100%.
So that's the long shot of it. So it's so cool.
That's so dope, man. Yeah, it's funny. The word community has been like coming up so much within a lot of conversation that I've been having, whether it's at a house party or whether it's, you know, at the cafe or wherever. I think a lot of people, especially within this town, are in a way kind of lacking community. You know what I mean?
Big time.
Well, I think we've been torn apart. We might have had some community, and it's been torn apart over the last couple of years with COVID, and everyone's
100%.
longing to feel like one again.
Yeah,
to
for
become
sure.
the one country and all the rest of it. And
Yeah.
And that time apart does cause that little bit of like trying to get back into it.
That disconnection.
Yeah, 100%. And like every person that I talk to feels very strongly the same. You know what I mean? Which is pretty like incredible when you think about it. You know, like in terms of, it's such an important thing. You know what I mean? Community people in your life that you can share things with, that you can talk to, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why you're so good at what you do is because you don't realize, well, you may realize that you're such a pivotal part in people's days without you realizing. Like that little introduction, the first start of the day where it's like, I've not walked out of wherever I've been from, either at Folk where we first met or at Lloyd's, and had that kind of interaction going, oh man, I wish I didn't go there. It's always been better for it, if you get what I mean. I think a lot of people need to think about their businesses this way more so, rather than thinking of it as a business per se, because
100%.
that is the business. The community builds their business.
Totally. That's
you go.
huge respects to Hans. Like, big shout out to Hans, especially at Folk. The whole way that he's kind of set up his business, and me being part of it, is very like personal, you know? And it's like, unlike any other place that I've worked in where someone comes through the door and it's not just like a service smile and like, you know, to get you to come back. It's a genuine connection. It's a genuine like interest in what they do and that sort of thing, which I've really taken on board. And yeah, it's super cool. Folk is an incredible place. It's a small spot, but man, it's had such a huge effect on a lot of people.
Huge impact.
100%.
Huge ripple.
100%.
Yeah, it's that whole your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Totally.
And you got that good energy. You bring some good people in there, and then you all build energy off each other. And if that's the way you start your day, every interaction after that should be in a positive spin. You know. Yeah.
Totally, bro.
Yeah, for sure. So where's Folk for those that don't understand?
Folk is on 148 Durham Street, which is very close to here.
Yeah.
It is, if you know where the rock shop is in Tauranga.
Oh, across the road there.
Yeah, across the road. It's in a place called Bay Station.
Yeah, that
shout out
place
to them
seems
as
pretty
well.
busy.
Yeah, they're humming. They've got a really good spot in terms of, obviously a lot of 9-to-5ers here. So yeah, they've got a very like steady sort of business
Community.
going. Yeah, very steady community.
I work in the mountain, but I drive from the lower Kaimais, and I drop in each morning or most mornings, as long as I'm not running late.
Yeah.
And just drop in there and go from there.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
Yeah, he does the product really well as well. I think that's why people do travel to like come for the coffee, because it is amazing coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're using Folk at Lloyd's as well. Big part of Lloyd's is Folk coffee.
Sure.
And big part of Lloyd's is good coffee, because I believe in a good product and caring about what you do, having passion about what you do. Because if you don't, what's the point of doing it? You know.
So is that their beans?
Yeah.
So you've got your own baristas. You've got them, but you're using their beans, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it's what you've known. It's what you've grown up
I've
and
known,
you've trained on.
And it's, to be honest, what I am involved in still. Like today I was over there, and he had like 20 different coffees set up on the table. And And we were just going through sipping. I was like, bro, I'm going to be wired after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. I was
It's going to be a long podcast. Get comfortable, everyone.
I got the energy, bro.
We're good to go. Yeah, good.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like, well, I've always said this thing, you best to have a good product at a reasonable price. It will naturally outperform anything else.
100%.
You know, you don't need to kind of do the quick one sell. You do a good product, you do it well at a reasonable price. It doesn't have to be cheap, but reasonable.
Yeah.
And guess what? It'll create its own marketing. 100%.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting the way that it kind of unfolded, because I look back at it and it's kind of like surreal because of the way that it segued, you know.
Sure.
I'd worked hospitality for a while. I'm talking like 7-8 years. I pretty much started working in hospice since I was like 15.
Yeah, okay.
And I was really like keen and passionate about coffee, especially like specialty coffee and getting into that sort of thing. I don't know what it is about my personality, but I love getting like super deep in the cut, you know, like that's why I play things like golf, those sort of things, because there's just so much to it, you know.
Yeah.
But with coffee, I really wanted to like progress in that and did that for a while. And then lockdown kind of happened. And at the time I was working at a place called Avenue Pizza, which is the guys that I'm collaborating with now.
Okay.
So it's me and Avenue Pizza who run Lloyd's.
Okay.
And I was working with them for a while, for like 3 years, doing both coffee and pizza. And so I was like kind of best of both worlds, you know.
Yeah.
And over lockdown, Joe, the owner, one of the owners, gave me a book of like sourdough, and he was like, go home, get stuck into this. Gave me like a bag of like 20 kilos of flour, and was like, just experiment, you know. And throughout lockdown, I baked probably like 120 loaves of bread. To my flats, obviously, you know, excitement. And
you don't look like you've eaten 120 loaves of bread.
bro, you should have seen me after lockdown. Holy.
I was jacked.
Yeah, I was. I'm not gonna lie.
It was bulking phase.
Yeah, it was spates and loaves of bread with butter. Like that was my diet. So bad.
I think that was most people's lockdown diet.
For real, bro. For real.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, I'd like gotten really immersed into baking and loved it. And so I kind of wanted to start a bakery, and I looked at the numbers and I was like, bro, this is not a good business model, you know?
No.
And so that kind of like, after lockdown like finished, we got back into working, back into normality, which it still isn't even back to yet. But some opportunities came up, and one of these opportunities was this spot. And the boys were like, hey, do you want to do something in the morning, you know? And we kind of had a look at the deli scene, I guess, that's going on in Aussie. Which is like popping off at the moment. Like over in Melbourne, there is like a deli around every corner, sort of thing. And they're all doing just sandwiches and coffee.
And I was just about to say, they've been doing that for years and doing it really well, offering, and this is what I get. Like, I go places and I order the same thing. You'll know.
100%.
It's my wife's pet hate. I order the same thing. If I go out for dinner, I enjoy it. Why am I going to order something different?
It's funny, bro.
I love it. Like,
You just got to tell her that's why I stay with you, darling.
That's a good one, bro.
On the same thing every night. I'm a
I
creature
am
of
going to
habit.
use that one. I was like, do you want me to trial other samples? Or?
Oh, no.
No. I'm not wearing my ring.
Abort.
It's a funny story, but I've lost my ring, by the way,
Oh, no.
guys.
Oh, yeah, you haven't found it?
No, we think a cat's taken it. So, by
Oh,
the
cat
way,
now?
guys,
Yeah, I thought it was a bird you were looking at.
we thought it was a bird, but now we're thinking more of a cat. One of our Bengals. So,
Oh, hectic.
but it's all right.
Was that the one with the signet?
Yeah.
Oh, gangster ring too. Oh, got it.
It'll pop up one day.
Surely, one day,
One day, and
Buried
then
in some dirt somewhere.
yeah, by that stage, I would have got a second one, and then both the boys can have it when I pass. So
Yeah.
just
Gangster.
look at it that way. So
Nice,
it'll
bro.
be cool.
Yeah.
But with you making all these like opportunities and presses from like it would have been a big step to some. But I'm sure I had a brief introduction and observation of like you with your father, and it's obviously a big part of building you into the man you are, and even how you spoke about him briefly. So that has to be a big part about it.
100%, man. I feel extremely...
And obviously mother too.
Yeah, Both
I
my
just
parents.
haven't met her.
Yeah, both, like my whole family, to be honest. Like I think looking back at my life, like I had a pretty rare childhood growing up, you know, like traveling around with your family, especially to like different nations where it's a full different culture. So it can be pretty like daunting, obviously, you know, like humor is different. Everything's different. Mm-hmm. And as a kid being exposed to that, you know, you are tight with your family because like you're around them all the time. And I feel I grew up very close with my family, and looking back, you know, you don't, as a kid, you don't see like what your parents do and all the things that have happened to like make you who you are now. Mm-hmm. But now, as I was saying to you, it's like growing older, I just have so much more and more appreciation for both my mum and dad.
Yep.
As I get older, you know, I spent the afternoon with them today, just helping my dad like put this big slider door into the side of the house. He had drilled this huge hole into the house, and just spending time with them is just like something that I want to do, something that I crave to do. And also my parents are amazing because they're not stuck in their way, you know, like they are very
open to change, and
open
understanding,
to change and open to have conversation and every day growing, you know, like the change that I've seen in both my mum and dad in the past 5 years is incredible, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I feel real blessed to have been part of a family that has been so supportive. And so, both my sisters as well, you know, being a big part of my life. And, you know, as life goes on, you get busy and you start, you know, trying to make a name for yourself, you know, start to, you know, pursue your career, progress in something. But what I've realized recently is like, man, family is so important, you know, just spending more time with them has like brought me so much more life, you know, because I know like from you guys, like as well, you'll know like business is all consuming sometimes, you know, it's like constant, and it's amazing, but it's also extremely draining. And having my parents there has been like a really amazing thing for me to be able to just go home and just chill out, you know, and just feel like I could just actually chill out, you know.
That's why you need the reasons why you're doing something. Mm-hmm. So how you're impacting somebody's day throughout the day. It's not about how many sandwiches you sell, because do you know why? You'll never sell enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you'll never make enough coffees. So when you're kind of doing that, but you're like, sheesh, I may have had a quiet day, but boy, did that person like walk out of here with the biggest smile on my face. And when you start to put that as your kind of your impact and where importance is, it's naturally going to be just so fulfilling.
100%. Yeah, and that's always been the reason I'm in this industry. You know, like hospitality is known, you know, it's not like a money industry. You're not making like bank in hospital, otherwise everyone would be doing it, you know. But it is definitely it's a super creative industry, but it's about the people, you know, it's about the community that you create, it's about the culture that you kind of try to cultivate. And Tauranga is definitely kind of lacking it, you know. And so I've always asked myself, like, would I move overseas to, you know, Melbourne, for instance, it's popping off with hospo and that sort of thing, and being like, you know, immerse myself in that community. But at the same time, there's been this really cool opportunity where you almost kind of like want to bring something to this town, you know, and try and create more of what you love, you know. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And to be honest, I don't know what the next however many years look like, but I'm stoked to be doing what I'm doing right now. So yeah.
Well, it shows.
Appreciate it.
It really does.
Yeah, man.
It really does. So what's a standout point for you back in the day? What age do you feel like was a big one? So I'll share the experience. Like I really can resonate with you where we had a family world tour when we were 12, where we were overseas for a year.
Yeah.
And that was a huge pivotal year for our growth and development into who we are.
100%.
And probably my humour too. So some people will say it's not so good, but hey.
Hey, that's
you cracked yourself up at least though.
I came up with a good joke the other day to myself.
You tell me this every time I see you.
Oh, mate.
I'm waiting for the good one to come though.
It's a two-part joke actually.
Okay.
Do you want me to tell you?
Everyone,
Okay.
get in your seats, get comfortable.
My jokes are so dry, they contain no moisture. I had my clients the other day like, oh my God, that is so terrible. And then it's got part 2 of it. It gets worse. This is why Ryan's podcast here is like, shit, okay, my jokes are so dry, they have no precipitation. But let's be real, guys.
You made this just for games.
He did. Let's be real though. If a joke's not laughing, if it's not cracking yourself up, like that's who the joke's really made for.
So true.
I know. I mean,
your own humour, right?
all those stand-ups just go up and stand on stage and just laugh and laugh and laugh while the crowd watch them. It's like, oh man, that was great. That guy laughed for an hour. Not sure what about, but
Actually, people just laugh along with them. Even if it might be at them, they're still laughing. The body doesn't know any difference. So back to that before I got distracted with my terrible joke.
Terrible jokes.
So what kind of age would have stood out for you to being really kind of a big pivotal moment?
Far out. I feel like there's just been pivotal moment after pivotal moment, you know.
Well, you can share some. It doesn't have to be one, but
Yeah, I think when I was in Malaysia, Penang, there was it's funny, there was actually a cafe in the place that my parents used to work at. And there was a guy there called Chin Kiet, CK I called him. And he was a barista there, and he kind of was really into latte art. He was one of the best latte art competitors in Malaysia, which is a pretty big deal, like over in Malaysia. It's a big thing. And so, I remember hanging out with him a lot and just actually working in the cafe just with him because he was like my homie, you know. And that was kind of one of the big moments for me where I was like first introduced to a job where I was actually kind of like, this is epic, you know what I mean?
it's no job, it's a career.
Yeah, it's a career, you know what I mean? And that was like my first like working experience, and I was probably like 13, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That was
cool.
definitely a big moment, and he was a really cool dude who was like, had a really good heart, and I could just see the way that he interacted with people and that sort of thing, and that was definitely a pivotal moment. But man, like actually like pinpointing pivotal moments, it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Well, are you still in contact with CK?
Every now and then, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Every now and then.
Cool,
Yeah,
he'll
I
be
haven't. To be
proud.
honest, I haven't spoken to him in probably like a year.
But still.
do you share your artworks with them? You must
I
have
used to. I
had
used
some
to.
pretty strong coffee game then.
Yeah,
What is your
Okay.
best artwork?
Yeah.
Well, artwork, to be honest, it's something that I haven't focused on. Like, I can do swans, I can do like inverted swans, that sort of stuff. But
I
I
can do a
wouldn't say
G.
it's, what's that?
I can do a G. A G for
cool,
good
bro.
coffee.
Good coffee or for Gabe. Nah, for me,
I
like,
have to cut you off those beers shortly.
This is my first one. I'm just looking at your face. You're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed.
I'm not embarrassed at all. I'm not your husband.
That's the look that my wife gives me. Man wife. Oh, funny. Oh, sound good.
put this here.
Yeah,
It's not
do
a
it.
risk. Nah, we're good. I don't know. I get real like shaky when I have to like perform in front of people, and so latte art is just not for me. You know, like I've done a bunch of competitions, and every time I get to like the last like quarterfinals, and I'm just there like, and so I'm not. That's definitely not what I.
But when you're serving up one for a cute girl or boy or whatever
that's
you're
easy,
into,
yeah.
you probably
That's
whip one together.
That's easy.
You added in the political.
Yeah. All inclusive.
Man, you're so 2023.
Don't even agree with that shit. Too.
Well played.
Oh, funny.
We know they or them's on this podcast.
It's me and he. Or she. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh
Bang my chest.
well. Well, I don't actually drink coffee, so I won't be in to see you up, but I'll be in for a roll.
Well,
For a
don't drink
sandwich.
coffee. Have you never drunk coffee?
No
Wow.
hot drinks.
True.
Don't touch hot drinks. Even soup buzzes me up. I'll have a hot chocolate every now and again, but I have to leave it for about 45 minutes to cool down.
Fair enough. 45 minutes.
I'm looking for like a lukewarm chocolate.
Ask them to not have it so hot.
Yeah. Like, yeah, can I have a hot chocolate and a bag of ice, please?
Far out. That's crazy, man. People drink coffee. I'm like, damn, you missing out, bro.
Yeah. I'll make up with it in beer.
Yeah, fair enough, bro. Fair enough. There's other things out there, whiskey, wines.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Similar caliber, for sure. Yeah, man.
It's really...
So when did Lloyd's kicked off, 3 years ago, just after COVID?
No, so Lloyd's is a relatively new thing. So I think we are 9 months deep. Okay. So we haven't actually done our first year yet. It all got like teed up real quickly. So back to Avenue Pizza, I worked with the boys for like 3 years, and they were operating out of the bowling alley at the time. Gabe will remember this.
Oh, yeah, I saw them there.
Yeah. And they do phenomenal pizza, like crazy pizza. Both Joe and Tom, so good at what they do, so passionate.
Really authentic.
Yeah. And just like that attention to detail, you know, like the things that the majority of people don't even pick up on, you know what I mean? Like that's a thing that I really love. And I worked with them, and great people to work with, great people to talk to, just like really like just homies, you know. And they moved from the bowling alley to this premises now.
Okay.
So they took over this lease, and they just do nighttime. So they just do pizza for dinner, and they finish up around like 8:39.
Sure.
So they hit me up, and they were like, "Hey, like there's an opportunity here to do something in the morning, something to do with coffee, and we can, you know, tee something up with food as well." And so they had like, they're always looking for new opportunities and new things to potentially have a hand in. So yeah, we kind of got set up with the sandwich thing. We started trialing things, and I had been baking a lot, and so I kind of had like baking to bring to the table as well. Yep. And so it's just pretty like insane looking back, seeing how we kind of segued from making coffee to baking loaves during lockdown, and now every day I'm making coffee and baking, you know, like on like a bigger scale, obviously, and still learning like every day, like so much. And there's something that's, I don't know, I'm weird like this, but like bread excites me so much. I don't know why. No. Like it's just this thing like so simple, water and flour. It is an art.
It's something simple that looks super simple, but it's very hard to get it going. Oh,
especially sourdough.
So good.
Yeah. And sourdough is actually good for you, unlike all the crap you buy in the supermarkets and stuff, to some degree. Yeah, because you'd know Jasper. He's about 6'4", but looks like a big Viking, big ginger beard.
Maybe,
big dude. Yeah, he comes in anyway. I know he does, because he sent me like a roll and stuff. I was like, "Where the fuck are you, boy?" And he's like Lloyd's. I'm like, so it's probably about 6 months ago. I was like, I don't know about this Lloyd's, so tell me more.
Yeah.
You know? Like I've never gone into Lloyd's and it's had nobody in there. Yeah, it's always got a lot of people in there, and that's just organically grown because it's like American Gangster, good products.
Yeah, take a lot of info from New York.
Good product at a reasonable price and quality. It's just so delicious.
So what's a roll go for? Are they 10, 15 bucks? What are they?
Nah, so we're selling our sandwiches at 17.
Yeah.
Because the thing that sets us apart, and not that there's many people here doing sandwiches, but we're doing pretty much everything in-house. So baking the bread, roasting all the meats, all the sauces, everything. And so that does take up a lot of time/energy. I would love to outsource some of these things, but the reality is there's not enough
volume to make your own.
Yeah, well, there's not even enough people doing specific things
and
in a really good way, you know.
And if it was, it would be to the quality that wouldn't make it Lloyd's.
If anything, you'll be the one who ends up outsourcing it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like hopefully like in the plans for the next, you know, foreseeable future. I would love to set up like a bakery at the back and just do like wholesale loaves and stuff.
Yeah.
But so we couldn't really like find anything that was outsourced at a reasonable price that was consistent, and so we were like, fuck it, I guess we got to do it ourselves, you know. And so to be honest, I'm super stoked that we're baking bread ourselves because it's something that I love, you know.
Well, it's delicious.
And it's delicious.
It's really delicious. My usual that I order,
the beef and pickle,
bread, it's delicious.
Yeah, that's been a number one since day one, eh? Yeah. To be honest, like the support has been overwhelming. Like, I think my community, coming from folk as well, like having built up quite a big community and network, and then combining that with Joe and Avenue Pizza, having the brands combine. There's like some sort of like, I don't know, Instagram is weird, man. Like people really jump on the hype. You know what I mean?
Well, it's collab, working with together to get to the same, and this is what Jason's been talking about. If you've got friends that want to prop you up, let's work together.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's all about kind of growth, because it's not me versus them, it's everybody together, and you should be surrounding yourself with people that want you to grow. And that's why whenever business is collab, it's a good thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, really, really good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. Like something for me, something that's always been kind of present throughout my life. I like somehow have like this weird fear of failure. You know what I mean? Of like before doing something, that intrusive thought that goes in. That's like, oh, but what if it doesn't work? Whatever, you know what I mean? And it stops you from doing things. And it's like that's been one of the biggest things for me this year, has been working through that, being like, you know what? Even if it fails, like that's where growth is, right?
Yeah.
It's like stop having this fear of failure, because I want to be the best at everything. You know what I mean? Like I want to be good at everything. But reality is, I think this is a quote from like fucking Adventure Time. It's like sucking at something is the start of being kind of good at it. You know what I mean? And it's so true.
You've always got to suck at something before 100%. You start. You're never going to be good.
But that feeling sucks.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's why they call it sucking.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it's imposter syndrome is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, who am I? I still have it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm coming on 40. I've been in the transport industry for 20 odd years, and I'm like, who am I to be telling these 60-year-olds how to run their businesses and stuff like that? But then I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. They might be good at driving a truck, but what do they actually know about the accounting and the financial numbers? This is what I've been doing for the last 10 odd years. You know, yeah, you got to remind yourself that yes, you are experienced. You do know what you're talking about.
Totally. Yeah. And still finding humility in that as well. You know, like, and yeah, it's been something that I've like started to pick out. You know, as I've been growing and processing through stuff, and just being like, man, like, just start saying yes to things. You know, and figure out the rest of it later. You know, similar to this. You know, you asked me, and I was like, damn, I suck at public speaking. You know, but I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
like,
but this ain't public speaking. This
is
a sit-down conversation with
so
two
true.
guys.
Apart from the public over here.
Exactly.
That's not really a public, that's the globe.
Let's go.
And here I'm looking out the window.
Telling your shit jokes. Let's go.
Happy as Larry.
This is not your stage.
No, definitely not. No, definitely
Let's hear
not.
a 10-minute stand-up. Let's go.
Oh, seriously, I'd be actually shocking at stand-up.
Oh, shit.
No, the reason why, like, my clients like, oh, you're really funny. I always laughing, and like sometimes I just get on this roll, but I'm actually just finding laughter in the situation, and I'm just chatting, but I know no jokes. I'm just really quick.
I'm the same. Like everyone's like, got a good joke? I'm like, nah. I'll banter along all day long.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, telling a good joke, like a bit, whatever. I don't know. There's definitely an art to that for sure.
Yeah,
one that I do not have at all.
I'm all about the heckle. You know, I like to break you down before I build you back up.
That's very Kiwi, bro.
Oh, tall poppy. Tall poppy joker. It's like, oh my God, realizations.
Yeah, it's just saying it. You're like, oh shit.
So what made you kind of ignore the kind of tall poppy actually to kind of jump at the opportunity actually?
Well, I had always, it's funny because like making the decision to do it, there was 2 opportunities at the time, and I was kind of like in a pretty stagnant place where I'd been working at Folk for a while, and we had like obviously just after lockdown, so it was pretty tough to begin with, but I was like, man, I was real frustrated. I was like, I want to get out of here. You know what I mean? Like my whole thing was like, I want to get out of this country. Like I want to go work somewhere. And I think I was just frustrated with being stagnant. And so
that's why a huge influx of people out as soon as the borders open.
Yeah, for sure. And I was feeling that, you know, like you feel that same energy. But at the same time, the boys from Avenue and Hans were expressing interest in these new leases. And I remember them hitting me up and being like, hey, do you want to come and check it out? And I remember thinking like, I'm nowhere near ready for that. But I'm going to come check it out. I'm going to show my interest anyway because I want to be involved or I want to show my keenness, you know what I mean? And so we went and checked out a couple of leases over, you know, a couple of months. And I actually started like, that's kind of another pivotal moment for me was like, a reality of like, oh shit, you know, like this is kind of the beginning. Yeah, it's like I could jump in, you know, and that's kind of where that opportunity came up. And I remember like talking to my parents about it, talking to some friends about it, and weighing up the two opportunities and being like, man, like I so feel good about this one, which is Lloyd's. And yeah, it all happened very quickly. You know, like the boys didn't mess around. Like they knew what they were doing, and they jumped in. And within, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, we had a soft open, and it was like, boom, we're doing it. And we had always talked about doing something together, but yeah. So it was just kind of like one of those things where I just had to throw my fear out the window. I was like, get it out of here. I'm doing this, you know.
Well, that's what you need is action, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than over-analysis paralysis. You can sit there and be like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, oh, this, and but we've got to get this right. Or, no, you just get started and you learn on the way.
100%.
Or even if you think about, I've got to get everything perfect by the time you've actually actioned it, like what you're just saying, it's 2-3 years down the track, and then guess what? You're no longer the pioneer because somebody else has actioned it beforehand, and you're like,
yeah.
You're the follower, you know, or you look like a copycat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is even like now sitting here talking about it. It's like looking back, it's like I did want to have like a really curated product and a really like curated vibe and all that sort of thing off the go, you know. But realistically, that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? You got to start somewhere, and so yeah, I had always wanted to do something for my own. And this was the opportunity that presented itself. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I'm doing it with 2 other dudes who have a similar vision, which is incredible, you know. And so there's strength in that. And
big time. You need to have a similar vision when you're in a partnership with people. You can't be on different pages.
Nah, exactly.
Those are very challenging. And you'll naturally have your own communication styles, and you'll have to learn that over the years.
Yeah,
but
100%.
It's still cool.
So are they
1,000%?
Are they there in the mornings with you, or they just do the pizzas at night and you're basically running that on your own?
So there's a bit of overlap. So there is me, Joe, and Tom, and Joe pretty much does a lot of like admin side of things.
Yep.
And so they have a spot over in the Mount as well. He kind of does Mount and pizza, and then me and Tom are kind of like hitting up deli, and we have a couple of staff as well. So yeah, it's me most mornings. I'm in there at the moment most mornings. I'm trying to take one day out and use that to work on stuff rather than working in it.
Yeah.
So work 4 days and then have one, you know, to work on stuff, progress things, because I'm finding doing things during service is just not going to happen.
Impossible.
You know? Especially like even me being on the coffee machine and trying to make a dough, you know, when there's like real tight windows that you're working with, it just doesn't happen. You know, someone's talking to you about their dog that died, and you're like, "Fuck, man, I got to fold this dough." You know, like
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Nah, you can't.
You can't do that.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. Like seeing the growth and working with the growing pains and trying to implement systems and all this sort of thing. It's been unreal how much I've been learning, and super super cool to be kind of like actually doing what I had thought about doing. You know. Yeah.
You'd be surprised by opening up that space and being really specific with your time as well, how much it will grow in that time. Like if you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to be efficient here, boom, efficiency. You go, I'm going to be like, oh, this is when I'm doing coffee. You'll be surprised. Just where that energy flows.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man.
It's cool to see. It's funny you've brought Melbourne to Tauranga, and like that's the thing as well. When we were spending so much time in Hamilton, and they had so many options for food, heaps of options, and I was like, Tauranga needs this.
Yeah, we've got heaps of the same.
Yeah, we've got the exact same, all competing. No different. Nobody's kind of doing something really good that's different, that you can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday if you want. You're basically going Monday, Tuesday, and the same thing for the entire week.
It's not so bad here now in town, but yeah, outside, because obviously got, you know, guys down here, there's a few joints around, some different options, but yeah, for the majority of it, it's sushi or the Skinders or
Turkish. Yeah. Well, you look at like Devonport Road and like all of it's for lease, you know what I mean? But in Hamilton, there's like definitely a cool crew of hospital people doing some cool stuff, you know? And I know that there's like a developer there that's doing a lot of cool things as well.
I was really surprised when I had to spend a lot of time there with my wife. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's actually got lots of options. So
yeah. And lots of good options.
Yeah.
That's the standout thing, you know, like you can have like shops everywhere, but people that are really like doing something and doing it well is like, it's hard to come across. Yeah. And I'm trying to get there.
Oh, you're on the path.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well
on the path. Yeah, man.
I'm sure there'll be a few more listeners dropping in there for myself included.
Yeah, come on down. Beef and pickle.
I'm already wondering what I'm having for breakfast tomorrow now. I'm like,
I'm there for lunch tomorrow.
Ooh, I'll be there.
Yeah, just save me a cookie.
Yeah, I know, bro. That's a hot property, bro.
Make more.
Yeah, 100%. Make more at 12 midday bakes. Straight up, bro.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
so is everything made fresh each day, is it?
Yeah.
Try to? Yeah.
So trying to keep it as consistent as possible to where you're making close to sell out, you know.
Yeah.
And we do sell out every now and then. We've definitely like learnt from the past. Like sometimes we've sold out at 12 and it's like, fuck, we got 2 hours of trade still and we got no bread, you know, like those sort of things are things that, you know, you start to like pick up on and go, okay, let's over.
It's a good problem to 100%. Have.
Yeah, keeping it limited and that sort of thing. Yeah, but fresh daily is kind of like the whole thing, you know, making the sandwiches fresh to order. Yep. It's kind of like you order a sandwich, we make it, you get it as fresh as possible.
Okay, so they're not sitting there in the window, you go away, whip it all together. And
yeah, it's all done.
Made on the spot.
On the spot.
It's like delicious every single time.
Yeah. It's kind of like this similar thing that New York is doing where, you know, you go into a deli and they whip it up there and they wrap it in paper and boom, it's out the door. But it's got like a little bit of like a more, I guess Melbourne has done it where they've created a menu for you rather than being like, I'll have that, and then put it into a sandwich. Yeah. It's like they create the menu, do all the classics, you know, like the Reuben, Cubano, whatever. Like all of this stuff, it's not original, you know. It's stuff that you get inspiration from and you try and put your own like sort of spin on it. Yeah. And so that's what we're doing.
We've done delicious spin on what my favorite is.
Let's go. Yeah, and there's some cool changes coming as well to where we're like trying to change the menu to where workflow is better so we can kind of cater to more people and just constantly working on systems and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been a cool journey, man. It's been a super cool journey.
How good.
And we've just had a barber move in this year, which is funny, man. Like I've always thought about like opening up a space that had like food joints, like retail shops, like in the same area, with like barber shops, tattoo artists and that sort of thing. And we've got like a dude making gelato out the back.
Yeah, it's Daniele.
Yeah, bro.
His gelato's phenomenal.
Like unreal.
Like
shout out to him, man.
When I trialed his gelato, and tried it, and I was like, it's got this really, really famous gelato store in Australia called Messina. And they're known for a whole pile of different ones, but their mint chocolate chip is unreal. And then I had his gelato, Cure de Gelato, and it was the mint choc. And I'm a fan. Like, I'm not joking. I had it, and I said to him, I was like, Daniele, that was better than Messina's gelato. And that is world famous. And I was like, I'm not joking, it's better. He was like, you know what? It's kind of funny. I did my training with him 10 years ago.
That's so epic.
So it's so epic. And he's made that company into a multi-millionaire business. He's the epic chef on MasterChef. Yeah, on MasterChef. He's the guest chef on MasterChef. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
we've got a little taste of that in Tauranga.
We've got a taste of that in Tauranga with the gelato.
He comes out with like the fresh ones that he's just had. He's like, yo, taste this. He's like, it's orgasmic. Like, yo, it actually is.
I better bring my appetite when I come around there.
He just like had this
you need to stock the gelato there if you could.
That's definitely in the plans for sure. We're trying to get that retail section, like the whole deli and grocer part of the business where we can get fridges set up, freezer set up, and that sort of thing. Have the retail shelves stacked, you know.
Even if it's just takeaway, like takeaway gelato, it holds, and it's like, geez, okay, I've had my Avenues, I've had my Lloyds, and dessert.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I actually took home some, because he like got me to try this licorice ice cream, this licorice gelato that he made. And I'm a Dutch boy, so I love licorice. And I was like, dude, I have to get some of that. And so he saved me a liter, and I bought it today, and I like had like a cupful. I was like, "Fuck, this is insane, man!"
It's insanely good. I tried it the first time he was making it, and then first taste, I was like, interesting, okay. And then it just grew. The flavor grew, and then I didn't eat it all, and it only got better.
That's how you know, bro.
Yeah,
that's how you know.
Yeah. So it's really cool that it's like this hub of creatives in the one space doing really cool things for Tauranga.
Hashtag food porn. Here you go. Straight up. Going back to the Instagram, like you're saying, like that's what Instagram's about, right? Like it's 100%. So easy to promote someone's product. And when we talk about in business, you know, what do you get? Well, you've got a shopper, a customer, you come up and what do you want to get to? You want to get to a raving fan. And if someone's showing up there taking photos and tagging you and stuff, that's that raving fan. That's
100%
promoting you for free.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but it's a real opportunity to have that. If your food's presented well, tasty, people are going to flip out. They're going to post about that shit.
Yeah, man. And that's what it's kind of like. Instagram has cultivated this hype that people come to Lloyd's because they've seen it on Instagram, and I'm like, that's so crazy, you know. Like I often ask people like, how did you hear about us? And a lot of it in this town, it's obviously like word of mouth is a strong one because everyone knows everything about what goes on in Tauranga. But a lot of it as well is Instagram. It's like, yo, I saw your Sammys on Instagram, you know. And that's like a real bizarre concept to like be like, wow.
Well, their picture pretty perfect, to be honest. Like,
they're tasty.
I like that fact of that simple detail, and most people won't ever pick it, but you've got this, how it's wrapped is perfectly cut. And one of the questions is, how sharp is your knife, or is it some special
bandsaw?
No, joking. It's unreal. It's so clean.
Yeah, they're just like, to be honest, they're bread knives, so they're real sharp bread knives that are serrated. I think these might actually be pastry knives, so like for like cutting pastries. But they're super sharp, and they've definitely got me a couple of times. But it's definitely the steez, so like wrap and cut.
Wrap, cut.
Yeah.
Two perfect halves. And you know, when you think about it though too, if you're actually not that hungry, you've got two halves, one for your wife, one for you, which my wife and I have done.
Yeah.
And with depending on the ones that you order, you only want a half because
100%.
they're actually really filling. So when you think $17 divided by 2, it becomes very affordable.
Yeah, totally. To be honest, like I can count on one hand how many times I've had like a full sandwich because I'm like in between service, and one is extremely filling. Like I'll finish one and I'm just like bloated as, you know what I mean? So yeah, they are big hearty sandwiches. But I think as well that's the appeal. You know, it's like you come in to get a full meal. It's like a sandwich is just like, it's a hearty sandwich with a drink or a coffee. And like throughout the weekdays, it's cool to see the regular people that work in the area come through and like have that like deli experience where, you know, you come through to grab a sandwich and it's like, it's not like a real fast food shit sort of like, it's nutritious and it's like going to fill you up. It's good bread. It's good ingredients. It's going to hit your protein goals, you know, like all those things. So yeah,
get those gains.
Get those gains, bro. Exactly. We should have caloric side notes on the menu. Maybe not actually.
Hey, scare them off.
But the good thing about it is I've gone to places for lunch before and I've bought a large and it's tiny like a small and you eat it and you're starving. You can't get through the rest of the afternoon without thinking how hungry you are.
Yeah,
so, and it's not cheap. So you're like, God damn it. So you guys are filling that gap too.
I've got to say, I've never actually seen Gabs this way. He's a little bit starstruck, I think. He's just been drooling and can't say enough good things.
No, I'm impressed. I actually am really impressed. I give credit when credit is due. And like, I think people are doing some really cool things in Tauranga that's well required. And Hans, who has been a long-term person that I've been wanting to get on. Yeah, I haven't asked him yet, but he's on. He's on the list.
Yeah.
I know he's going to. But
he'd be so fun, bro.
Oh,
he's
mate,
loud,
it's happening. It's happening.
It's
not.
Sure.
It's no matter if, but when. Yeah.
One of those ones.
Wasn't me.
Just about to do a champagne shower with a Peroni Zero.
Who said they're non-alcoholic? Eh?
Yeah, straight up.
Sinastro Azul.
So, are there any kind of any kind of things you want to touch on that we haven't touched on?
That I want to touch on? I mean, not really in particular. I mean, I came on here just kind of like with nothing really on my mind. I was just kind of like, let's just have a conversation sort of thing. Yeah. I'm kind of an off the cuff sort of person. Yeah. I don't really, like to think too far ahead because I'm an overthinker and I get into my own head. Yeah. But I did want to ask, one of the things that I did want to ask is like, for you guys, like when you were my age, when you were like 23, 24, growing up and you were kind of like living life, like where was your mental at? Where were your heads at? Like where were you guys at 23, 24, like mid 20s sort of thing, Yes. Always interesting to hear.
So for me, I assumed that I'd be a multi-millionaire by the age of 27.
Yeah.
And that got dispelled really, really fast because I did the maths and I knew I wasn't going to be finished by the age of 27. So that kind of got in. But what I am very good at and have always been at is having my my non-negotiables. So I think it's a big part of who I am, and I've always trained, and I wasn't allowed to do kind of fighting or martial arts when I was younger, and then just doing it while I was at uni, and it's a big part of who I am, and just having the kind of avenues that's really important where you can kind of go let off steam, and not necessarily unnecessary steam, but it's just some people are just built differently, that they just need to kind of let energy out or train or go to the gym, do something positive that's just for you that naturally fills your cup. I had learnt that at that age range for me. So I was from about 21 really starting to do that. And start to really kind of train and really, I think it was about 22, 23 actually when I started the fighting and just working that way. And that was really pivotal, but that made such a huge impact in every other aspect of my life.
I can imagine, man. Yeah. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially today, like has become quite like a trendy thing.
Yeah, well, I didn't start with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I started with Muay Thai. I used to fight Muay Thai, then went to Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, then only went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Australia 10 years ago. So I've only been doing it for 10 years. So yeah,
it's funny. I've only been doing it for 10 years.
Oh mate, I'm still a baby in baby in it. Like people are like, oh, you know so much, but the more you know, you realize you know absolutely jack all. You're just really good at doing what you do well, So yeah.
Yeah, so it's an inspiring thing, and I think when I hear people talk about martial arts in particular, like every person that has committed to martial arts seems to be a really like, obviously there's a lot of discipline involved, but in terms of mentally, I don't know, there's something different, It's something that I've really like been wanting to look into, to like kind of get into.
I can kind of explain it. It's like if you get chucked in the deep end and you think about it like this, you've got somebody who's trying to technically kill you and trying to choke the shit out of you, and your life, if you don't tap, you are going to sleep. There's something really relaxing about it because your focus is 100% on that. And it's also about overcoming obstacles to kind of achieve what you need to do to escape. So you've got to think clearly, you've got to think logically, you've got to be relaxed, cool, calm, collected in that situation. So you learn a lot of skills in that moment. So I would say it's a big part because you use all those skills within business too.
100%.
Yeah, so yeah.
I think Joe Rogan explains it well, when he said, all these motherfuckers with their anxiety, worried about making a phone call during the day. You wake up in the morning, do some jiu-jitsu, and someone's trying to rip your arm off. That phone call doesn't seem so bad anymore.
100%.
Exactly.
So
like
true.
if it's the old story, you get up and do the hardest thing you can do, whether it's going to the gym, that cold plunge, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Do that in the morning, or the rest of your day is a cakewalk.
Yeah, man, so true.
And that's where like the getting up, having a positive impact on somebody's life at the start of the day is so important too. Yeah. So what about for yourself, Jason?
I was just a kid. I'm always so inspired by how smart and well-rounded the youth of today are. I mean, we got a 21-year-old daughter, and she's doing some pretty big things, and she's pulled me up over the years too. I'm like, man, why are you so mature? Like, you're frustrating. You're hard to talk to.
It's just
do as you're told, not as you.
It's having that knowledge there, though, too.
Yeah, because it's so available to you, right? Like, everything's so available. Because when we were growing up, there was no YouTube, there was no Audible, there was no podcast. Yeah. So what did you know? You knew what your surroundings were. You only knew what you grew up around.
100%.
So what did I do? I was just, you've heard my story, I think. I dropped out of school. I was working my way through. At 24, I was a 2IC and at truck stops and parts department, going for the manager's type position. And then they came along and said, well, we know you want that role. We're going to be, we're looking for some redundancy in the business, and we can't give you that role because there's someone in it. You've probably got itchy feet. Do you want to go? And I said, yeah, well. And then I walked off and with no job, and talked to a couple of people and became a business consultant for Vodafone. So I suppose I always believed that I could pretty much do anything, and it's sort of around that sales type role. But I probably said it in that podcast, my thing's always been, be the person someone wants to have a beer with on Friday.
Yeah.
If you're that person, the vibe attracts your tribe, all that sort of stuff. If you're likable, you'll end up in good positions in your life. If you're not, you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're freaking awkward, might not want to work with you. I don't want you part of my small niche little team. Right, if you're in a science lab or something like super data and you just sit there. But the average business, especially in NZ, they're looking for personalities, and I suppose that's 100%. What's got me through. And I've just ducked and dived and found my way in my 30s.
There you go.
I wasn't there in my 20s.
Everybody's journey's different though.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, what's some advice you would give your younger self?
I was going to ask this question, bro.
Even though you are young.
Or if I was looking back, like to give a certain age, maybe like, I don't know, 18, 19 even, it would probably be, honestly, to just not act out of fear all the time, or don't be afraid of failure, but embrace it, rather than constantly being like, oh, nah, I don't want to give that a go because I suck at it, like I said earlier. I think embracing the failure and learning that there is growth in that, I think that is one of the most valuable things, because then you're just constantly growing, you know what I mean? Yeah, maybe as well, like, I'm quite an overthinker, and so don't take everything so seriously, like just have fun with it as well, like if you're trying something new and it's hard and it's, it's not like working how you want it to, just like remember that it's a process and you got to enjoy that, I feel like I'm saying that to myself right now, even, and like still trying to drill that into my brain now.
Well, that's the inner voice. You got to retrain it.
Yeah,
you just got to show up, do your best, enjoy the process, and let God do the rest.
That's it, bro. That's it, for real. Yeah, man. Something I have been thinking about a lot recently has just been, especially within my generation, this issue that is just constant overstimulation, and obviously the joy of having access to everything like YouTube, Google, Instagram, all this stuff, but also the distraction that it causes within discipline, within all this stuff, where my whole generation is addicted to Instagram, is addicted to all this stuff. And I think, especially within my age, when I talk to my peers, there's this like frustration in everyone. And when you talk to them, everyone senses the same frustration. And I think that's why all these like dudes like Andrew Huberman and like these self-help guys are kind of becoming, I don't know if it's just my Instagram feed or not, but I feel like it's a lot of people where people are really trying to like work on themselves and develop, and they're actually getting frustrated with the overstimulation that they're starting to figure out different ways of moving forward. And recently, in the past like 2 or 3 months, I've just been trying to like get away from all of that and like step out of it and take moments of silence where I have nothing on my brain. You know what I mean? Because there's not often moments throughout my day where I don't have music in or a podcast in or a video up or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's been so refreshing just being with my own thoughts.
Well, it's another process of filling your own cup, because you need to take a step where you're in a role that's naturally giving a lot of energy, and whether you like it or not, you're naturally going to be doing it. So just by taking the step back to kind of do it, it's important. So yeah, I'd just like to thank you personally for coming on, taking that step of fear, and where a lot of people may have said no because it may have been fearful to come and chat on a podcast. It's a new experience. I'd like to say thanks again for kind of taking that leap of faith, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable.
No, well, thank you guys for having me on. Like, honestly, I feel honoured to be on, you know?
No. Everyone's got a cool story, so, you know.
And that's what I'm saying,
Let's get it out. So how do people find you?
How do people find me?
Or the deli?
The deli. 70 St. John Street.
So 70 St. John Street.
70 St. John Street, that's the location. And Lloyd's Deli on Instagram. We don't even have Facebook set up because
who's on
Instagram?
that?
Yeah, who's on Facebook, you know?
So true.
Yeah, otherwise Google us, Lloyd's Deli, our address is there. You can give us a call, we'll run you through the menu. You can order a sandwich. But
and what
exciting things
6
coming.
till 6 is it? 6
so we are 8 till 2,
8 till 2.
On the weekdays. And so that's Wednesday to Friday.
Right.
And then Saturday, Sunday, we are 9 till 2.
Okay.
So we just work lax hours.
Late starters, eh?
Yeah, late starters. That's how we roll.
It's worth the wait, though.
Coming after I've been to the gym maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. Same as me, man.
Hit those calorific.
Yes, sir.
You've got to get them gains.
I've been gaining a bit too much lately. I'm going to have to do another detox, I think.
I feel that.
Well, thanks, bro. And
Thank you guys.
yeah, it's an absolute pleasure again. So yeah,
Legends.
awesome.
Right, too easy. Thank you.
Too easy.
Beautiful.